What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Chase's Sports News. I am Chase Coburn here today. The best week of the entire year has commenced. The week leading up to March Madness before the first official games, right? The official first round of 64, beginning on Thursday, and then on Friday. Then we go to the second round, then the second week. It's just what a time of year it is for March Madness basketball. But it's called Madness for a reason because it's upsets and it's Cinderella runs in March Madness. I know a lot of people are trying to pick 7th seeds and 8th seeds and 9th seeds, teams that can maybe make Sweet 16, Elite 8 runs. I'm going to do something a little different that's specific to the first round. What are some of the top upset picks that fans, including myself, should be considering as they're filling out their brackets this week ahead of that Thursday 12 p.m. deadline? Not all of these games I actually think are going to happen, right? Not all of these upsets I think are going to come to fruition. I'm going to have an upset for the 6-11, 5-12, 4-13, 3-14, 2-15, and 1-16 even. Some of the games that I think you should look out for, one game at least from each of those, no more than two for each of those. Just some of the best upset picks that you should look for on your bracket. And again, like I'll start off with my first example in a minute. I'm not actually going to have the Siena Saints beating the Duke Blue Devils. However, out of all the 16-1 matchups that we know of, that is the one that is most likely to happen, and the one that if you were going to pick a 16-1 upset, that you should pick in this year's tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to break down all those key matchups and more here on today's episode of Chase the Sports News. Please subscribe, share, do what you need to do to keep up with all the content coming soon. We got March Madness this week, and we got NBA coverage, NFL draft, MLB season beginning. What a time of year it is to be a sports fan. So really, really excited to break that all down here on Chase's Sports News. First, I want to break down some of the common characteristics, some things where there are some teams that maybe will go away from this, but some of the characteristics that I like from teams that do end up going and making upsets in March Madness. I like teams that can shoot the ball really well and have these explosive offenses. I think it's more likely to be an 11th seed and just catch fire from three and shoot 50% from downtown and outscore somebody than shoot 40% and out-defend them. I just think the skill level, it's more likely that you're going to get a Jack Golke or a Max A. Smith or X, Y, and Z to end up in getting hot from three-point range. Those are the guys we've seen before from the Oaklands and the Oral Roberts of the past. And so I think that is a characteristic that I really like from teams. I do think you need to be disciplined defensively, though. You can't be an awful defensive team. You need to at least be competent enough to keep the game close because you can't get in a shootout with some of these teams either. You are going to lose that from a skill perspective. And I think it's also good to have. It's more of a good to have than a must, a necessity. It's good to have veteran leadership guys who have been there before. Oral Roberts, had guys who have been in college multiple years, et cetera, et cetera. Oakland had that as well. So I like these teams that have been able to have multiple years of collegiate experience and have veterans who have been there before, maybe not even in March Madness, but just are veterans who understand the nuances of the game. So those are some of the variables I love. We're going to start off here in my first matchup between Siena and Duke. Before we do, if you guys do want to fill out these brackets, please go click the link down low. You can see my bracket challenge for men's basketball. We're going to do a women's basketball one as well. It's completely free to enter. You just need to follow me on all social media platforms. DM me. And if you do DM me with proof, you will be able and be eligible to earn a prize soon to be announced at the end of the tournament. So please click the link down below if you do want to participate. Finally, guys, we'll get into it. Not trying to milk this here. If you're going to pick a 16-1 upset in your bracket, pick Siena over Duke. Again, I don't think this is going to happen, but there are only two matchups between the 1 and 16 that are set right now as of the time of this recording. And while I think Duke is the best team in the country, I think Siena matches up well with them. Again, obviously, that's comparatively given the fact that they're a 29.5-point underdog. But Siena head coach Jerry McNamara, he's a March legend back from his playing days at Syracuse. He has these Saints playing at an extremely high level, covering this team of the MAC. I mean, Gavin Doty is one of the best playmakers in the conference. Justice Schultz is an X factor. The Saints have size. They're a good rebounding team, and they don't have a lot of off-ball turnovers. They're very, very good in protecting the basketball and playing a really disciplined game, and that comes from having a coach who knows how to win in this month. And just with those intangibles, they don't seem like a team that's going to get blown out. I could see them at least making this competitive in the first half. Plus, if Patrick Gungba is still going to be out for the first round here for Duke, and with Caleb Foster already out, they're a Cam Boozer foul trouble away, they being Siena, from actually staying in this game and making it look at least competitive. I say all that. I have Duke winning this game by a gazillion points. I don't think it's going to be that close. However, again, if you were going to pick a 16-1 upset, given their size, their ability to force fouls, and their, I guess, lack of tendency to turn the ball over, I think Siena is a team that you should look out for, with, again, a March legend in Jerry McNamara, who is one of the leaders right now to possibly go and get that job at his alma mater in Syracuse. So watch out for the Saints in that 16-1 matchup with the Duke Blue Devils. 15-2. Again, I don't think this is going to happen. But if you're going to pick a 15 seed to beat a second seed, pick the Furman Paladins over the UConn Huskies. This is a nightmarish matchup for UConn having to face Furman in the first round. The Huskies have really thrived this year when they're able to get the ball inside. Terrace Reed, Eric Gryba, some of the more dominant big men in the Big East this year. Terrace Reed, one of the more dominant big men in the country when he's on point. I think it's going to be a much taller order to be able to have that success, though, against a Furman team that is one of the taller ones in the country. There are out of very few teams in the country that have multiple players that are 6'10" or taller. And I also think what Furman does really well is they allow a really, really low three-point percentage, one that was second best in the SoCon Conference this year and is in the better half of the country. And so if you're able to, with your height, minimize the impact of Terrace Reed and Eric Gryba, and you're going to force UConn to make three-point shots on a very good three-point defense, that's not the game UConn wants to play. They certainly can make outside shots with Alex Karaban, solo ball, Braylon Mullins, but it's been a far more reliable and inconsistent part of their game. Karaban from 30 feet is just not sustainable for 6 games. It's only going to work every now and then. So, again, it's not reliable. Solo balls look really poor as of late. Braylon Mullins is so inconsistent throughout the entire season. And so, again, if you get those guys, if you're Furman, if you get Reed and Ryba in foul trouble, and if you're Furman and they actually make their threes, is there upset potential? I could certainly see it. It's March. Anything can happen. I certainly don't think they will win because UConn is going to step up. They're one of the best teams in March. Dan Hurley knows how to have this team playing at a really high level in this month. But just watch out for Furman. If you're going to see a 15-2 upset, I'm telling you, it's going to be Furman over my very own UConn Huskies. Not because UConn is the worst second seed or because Furman's the best 15th seed. It's really just that matchup and Furman being able to have the height to possibly combat what UConn is going to be able to do inside the paint. If you're going to pick a 14-3 matchup, I like North Dakota State Bison over the Michigan State Spartans. Again, I'm not going to pick them to win, but only if you're going to pick a 14th seed to actually go and make an upset. I think the Bison are a lethal team for beyond the arc. They shot 36.5% from three-point range. That was the second best in the Summit League this year and top 40 nationwide. And it's with a by-committee approach. It's not just one individual who you could shut down and take out of the game. They had 5 players this year with 35 or more three-point makes. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They gave up the fewest points in the Summit. And that's another team, another type of team that I love, a team that can shoot the three-point ball and plays defense really well. There are a few types of combinations that we're going to break down of teams that I love just generally in the game of basketball at the high school, collegiate, and professional level. I love teams that are great offensively and can rebound the basketball, and I love teams that can shoot the three ball really well and are great defensively. I think those are great combinations, assuming you're not going to have the perfect balance of offense and defense. And I think those are the exact intangibles, as I just mentioned, that North Dakota State does have. Those are the exact intangibles of what a team needs to do to win in this month and pull off an insane upset. Plus, they're extremely experienced. I mentioned veteran leadership is one of the common characteristics for some of these, heroic Cinderella teams earlier. They have 4 players, they being the Bison, who have 4 or more seasons of collegiate experience. Look, Michigan State, I think, is a team that could honestly go to the Final Four. They're a very, very good team. The Spartans, I think they played really, really well. They've had their patches where they haven't looked as well, but they're a 3 seed for a reason. They probably should have been a 2nd seed. But a lot of people forget last year, while they ended up pulling away against Bryant, when I think it was a 25-point victory, the Bulldogs had that game close for a while, really up until the 10 to 15 minute mark of the second half where Michigan State was able to pull away and the wheels just fell off for Bryant. But I don't think Michigan State is a shoe-in, pencil-in for this 3-14 matchup. I'm certainly picking the Spartans. I'm not thinking much about it. But again, North Dakota State has the intangibles of a team that could go and make an upset in March. I'm just putting it out there. I could see in a possible world of the craziness of March Madness, I see a world where North Dakota State beats Michigan State. I don't think it's going to happen, but I see a world where it's possible. Going to a 13-4 matchup, I really like the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors against the Arkansas Razorbacks. I think it's a very interesting matchup. The defense for Hawaii is going to be the case. They gave up the fewest assists per game in the entire country at 9.3 per game, and they kind of limit teams to create freely offensively. And that's what Arkansas has done all year. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country. 4th in scoring this year. They're among the leaders in the entire country as well with 17 assists per game. And I think what's interesting is you try to find, if you're Arkansas, right, how have they lost games? What has happened when they have lost games? And there have obviously been other metrics, but when they've lost games, especially by big margins, it's been because teams like Florida or teams like Michigan State, if you look down the line of some of their previous results, have limited their ball movement and assist totals. And nearly every loss they've had this year, they have had an assist total that is lower than their average of around 17 per game, sometimes much lower, nearly 10 to 13 assists in those games type of territory. And so I think that is a type of a matchup where if Hawaii is really going to limit their ball movement, Arkansas is going to have to play an ISO offensive game. And that's not the game that they do like to play. They're also really poor defensively. They gave up over 80 points per game during the regular season. The one thing where I think they really do have the Rainbow Warriors is, though their defense is really weak, they only give up 20 free throw attempts per game. What Hawaii does really well is they have 25 plus free throw attempts per game. They get to the line, they draw contact. Arkansas doesn't allow that as frequently. But if you are going to look at Hawaii, I think Isaiah Johnson has been a dominant presence in the post all year. Drew Bullock has been a solid scoring guard. I am going to pick Arkansas, obviously, because I question whether Hawaii's offense can keep up with the explosiveness of Arkansas for 40 minutes. But I do think it is possible. And again, if Arkansas's offense becomes stagnant, this is not a defense that is going to lock down really anybody in the country. It's not a great defense. And so I'm picking the Razorbacks, but there are crazier worlds. It's not the most outlandish possibility that Hawaii goes and pulls off a 13-4 upset here in March Madness. I'm going to have two 12-5 matchups for you and two 11-6 matchups. Now, I think a lot of these 12-5 and 11-6 matchups are really, really good. I'm not going to go into the 10-7 and 9-8 matchups just because I don't really consider those upsets, but really focusing here on my two top 12-5 matchups to look out for. I want to see the High Point Panthers against the Wisconsin Badgers. I don't know if High Point's going to win. I just want to see what that looks like. I think Wisconsin was a little bit overseeded. I think they were 25th in KenPom, a little bit lower in most metrics. I thought a fifth seed was very, very generous for them. I mean, I think High Point could have been a lot higher as well, possibly an 11th seed instead of a 12th. I think by most metrics, they were one of, if not the best mid-major in the country, if you exclude kind of Gonzaga and St. Mary's from that mid-major equation, which, though they're in the West Coast Conference, which is a mid-major conference, I consider those to be major conferences since they're in the tournament every single year with at-large bids, if not conference tournament titles. Nonetheless, you look at a High Point team that I think has played really well. They won 14 straight games entering the NCAA tournament. They led the country in point differential, one of just three teams in the country to score 90 plus points per game. They shoot really efficiently. Again, you talk about teams that could just catch fire offensively and teams that have dominated lower competition this year. High Point checks those boxes. And the irony is not only do they have Terry Anderson and Rob Martin, guys who can get hot from downtown, but defensively, they also led the nation in steals and were third in turnovers forced. So again, hypothetically, you get Wisconsin, an offense that has played really, really well this year, the highest scoring offense in Badger history, at 80, or I think since 1972 it was, at 83 points per game. You get them to turn the ball over, that's where things can be shaky. Now, the Badgers haven't done that a lot this year. They've been one of the better teams in the Big Ten and across all of college basketball. They very rarely turn the basketball over. And I think the Badgers are coming in playing really good basketball. They've won 5 of their past 6 games. That only loss coming on a buzzer beater to the first-seeded Michigan Wolverines here, the best team in the Big Ten all year and one of the best teams in all of college basketball. This is going to be a really fun matchup. I think I'm going to pick Wisconsin to win just because, again, I think they've been playing really well as of late. And I think great offense at a power level beats great offense at a mid-major level in these types of games. But it's going to be a really fun offensive matchup. And again, if you could start to see Wisconsin feel a little bit uncomfortable, and if they begin to start to turn the ball over, look out for an upset alert, because I think the Panthers, though it's a rough matchup for them, I think they have been one of the best mid-majors in the country, and you can't count them out here in the NCAA tournament. In my last 12-5 matchup that I'm really going to break down, I do want to break down the Akron Zips over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I mentioned this in my immediate reactions for March Madness. Akron's red hot on offense, one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, 88 points per game. That ranks, I think it's 10th in the country. They're 17th with 18 assists per game, also 10th in field goal percentage, 21st in three-point percentage. Offensively, they move the ball around really well. They can shoot from the outside. They're really, really efficient. And for Texas Tech, I don't think their defense has been anything special. They've also lost 3 straight games entering the NCAA tournament. And I'm going to break this down like a team like BYU as an example, or a team like North Carolina as an example. I think Texas Tech was overseeded because you need to look at their overall body of work. And what their overall body of work tells you is they've been a very productive team all year, a team that beat Duke, the number 1 team in the country. And so you need to reward them for that. But you also need to understand that while they can't be seeded because of this injury, and you can't let that affect their overall seeding and affect their overall body of work, you do also need to understand that JT Toppin is out. and he has been one of the best players in the country this year for Texas Tech. He has that torn ACL. He's not going to play again this year. And so if you get an Akron offense that is just red hot from three-point range, and a Texas Tech defense that isn't controlling them, and a Texas Tech offense that is now without their leading scorer and one that has lost 3 straight games entering the tournament, that's not an enticing buy. That's not a team that you're going to want to pick to go and win some games in this tournament. I think without JT Toppin, I think this is really a 7th seeded level team that is masquerading as a 5th seed, again, because of their body of work. So I really don't think this is a traditional 12-5 upset in that matter. I think if you get the Zips going red hot from downtown, they're a team that I would be inclined to go and take in this tournament. Again, the whole thing, the whole complexion of this game would change if Toppin was on the floor, but he's not, and that needs to be taken into account here if you are going to pick some of these 12-5 upsets. I also do want to mention the other two. I think it's a really, really interesting 12-5 slate. All of these games I could see kind of on upset watch. I think if Northern Illinois, they're able to slow down St. John's pace. Northern Illinois gave up the fewest points per game in the entire country. St. John's likes to play quick. If they could slow down that pace, that's another interesting matchup. Plus, I think if McNeese can win the turnover battle over Vanderbilt, that's another potential upset. Now, I do have Vanderbilt and St. John's winning. St. John's won the Big East regular season championship and the Big East tournament, dominated UConn, and MSGO was there. It wasn't close. Vanderbilt made the SEC championship, just waxed Florida. I have a hard time picking against those teams, even as probably a lower seeded 5th seed. They should probably be more like a 3rd seed. I have a hard time picking against those teams. But again, very much possible with the way that they match up with their 12th seed in round 1, that they could be on upset alert here in the first round. So I'm really, really excited for each of these 12-5 matchups, and I really think it could be a very, very exciting first round for some of those 12-5s that are always so common in the world of college basketball. And then also I have my 11 and 6 matchups. I have 2 of them here that I really want to break down. The first of which, VCU over North Carolina. This is a matchup that I actually am picking on my bracket. Like Texas Tech and like North Carolina, which we're going to break down now, or like Texas Tech, North Carolina is shorthanded without their star freshman in Caleb Wilson. The Tar Heels have lost their past 2 games entering the tournament. And meanwhile, I think VCU has been playing really, really well as of late. They've won 16 of their past 17 games. I thought they really cruised by in the Atlantic 10 tournament. They played really well in the A10. Their only loss over their past 17 games is to St. Louis, one of the best mid-majors in the country this year, who got off to a historic 24-1 start. If you're looking at a team in VCU, I think they're pretty balanced on offense and defense across the board. I think they could shoot the 3-point ball pretty well, plus 36% from downtown this year. And where they can really exploit North Carolina is with that 3-point ball. The Tar Heels have struggled to guard the 3-point shot all season long. I could very well see this being a Jadrian Tracy or Nick Lewis game from downtown for the VCU Rams, who again have played really, really well as of late. I like them a lot in this matchup against, yet again, another team in North Carolina that is masquerading as a higher seed than they actually would be given their injury with their star freshman guard, Caleb Wilson. If Wilson was on the floor, I'd be picking North Carolina, but he's not on the floor, and that's why the Tar Heels are only a 2.5-point favorite in this matchup on most betting apps and betting metrics. And I think that is very much indicative of the fact that VCU can go and pull off this upset, and I'm excited for that 11-6 matchup. I am actually going and picking the Rams to upset North Carolina in an 11-6 in round 1. And last but not least, this one I feel really, really passionate about. I am in love with South Florida to make a Cinderella run in this tournament as an 11th seed. They check every single box of what you want out of a team in the stands. 25-8 during the regular season. Their few losses were by slim margins. They were never run off the floor. They were always very competitive. They're 8th in the country with nearly 88 points per game. They're not elite defensively, but they're 2nd in rebounds. And I talked about some of the intangibles of teams that I really, really love. If you're not a great defensive team, I love teams that can score the ball really well and can rebound, because I think great rebounding will in turn, come postseason basketball, lead to at least average to above average defensive production. I think that's sometimes all you need when you have an elite offense like South Florida's. And that is an offense that plays at an extremely quick pace, one of the fastest in the country. And that led to them attempting the 2nd most shots per game in the country. This is a team that's going to run around you. They're very, very explosive. They're very, very athletic. And that's the type of team that I love taking. Again, a very, very offensively electric team that had great results during the regular season. And I think for me, Louisville is far from a traditional 6th seed. Sometimes these 6 seeds like a Tennessee or a BYU, you've seen results earlier in the year that would indicate that they could be a national championship contender, that they have high-level players, some of the best players in the country that could, be future NBA guys or future stars at the highest level. I don't see that in Louisville. Instead, I look at a team that was 1-8 in Quad 1A games this year, a team that's been extremely inconsistent in ACC play, and they don't have an elite defense to go and slow down that pace. I honestly feel like the way that they match up, they're a poor man's version of South Florida. I really, really love the Bulls here, and they kind of remind me a lot of what Colorado State was last year against fifth seed in Memphis. Last year, Colorado State as a 12th seed was actually the favorite in the matchup, and it felt preordained that they were going to go and pull off that upset over Memphis. I see a similar thing this year. Louisville is the slight favorite, but I look at a South Florida team that matches up really, really well. And while they're not the favorite, they're pretty darn close to being the favorite. So I'm in love with South Florida. Pick them in your tournament. Pick them to make a Cinderella run, and especially pick them to win in the first round, because they're a team that checks every single box from top to bottom, and a team that will certainly win their first round matchup over Louisville. I love the Bulls this year. Please go and take them, because again, they're a team that I think we can look back and say, wow, we should have seen this coming all along. A team that's had great results and has the intangibles of a team that could go on a Cinderella run in this March Madness dance. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this edition of Chase's Sports News. Again, those are my top upset predictions. A ton of other matchups I can see as well. It's March Madness. Anything can happen, and that's what makes it so much fun. Tomorrow, we're going to have some more content. Wednesday, we're going to make our official March Madness predictions. So much coming up soon. You're not going to want to miss any of it. So please be sure to subscribe. And again, if you want to compete against me and all of our other followers and subscribers that are joining our bracket challenge, please click the link in the description. It's by ESPN, completely free entry. And again, the winner will earn a prize if they do follow me across all social media platforms and prove to me that that is the case. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Signing off, I'm your host, Chase Coburn, saying so long as we all enjoy the best week of the year ahead of March Madness.